What's good, family? We are back with another episode of Ro Lamb Live. My name is Ro Lamb. I am your host, and today I am joined by two special guests. My brother TJ Sterling and my brother Ade Haru.
Guru, yes, sir. That's me.
What up? What
So
up?
glad to have my boys with me tonight. We're going to be talking about creativity. We're going to be talking about life. And we're going to be talking about their current Kickstarter campaign that is called MUSA, Lion of Mali, which is as you can see, 120-page historical fantasy epic. So I'm excited to talk about that and learn a little bit more about that. But before we do that, I want to start with the question that I love to ask, which is, what is inspiring you right now? So what are you reading? What are you watching? What are you listening to? What's happening in life right now that's getting those creative juices flowing for you right now?
Honestly, just seeing a reaction of people's, we've been teasing the Musa Lion of Mali book for the last like maybe 5 or 6 months. We've been teasing it here and there, and we put the logo out with a little bit of graphics, and then some small sketches and pages, just to kind of trickle everything in, and everybody was really excited about it. Everybody was interested as to what we were cooking up. I haven't dropped a new book in over almost 2 years. So, again, most of the people who support Ray Media and what we've been doing, they know that when we do drop, like, we've got some quality, we've got some heat, and was just honored and excited to see the reaction, man. And so I've been feeding off the energy it had. Shoot, what I'm watching right now that is inspiring and fun for me is I was watching Stranger Things, their most recent season, which I thought was really, really well done. Um, Believe it or not, I'm rewatching the Steve Harvey show because it's on Netflix. And I watched that show when I was in high school, and I was like, yo, this shit still hits. The comedy, the pacing, the storytelling, the characters. And I like to research now as an adult, like how character arcs are written and how they play out. And sitcom television, from the 80s and the 90s was really, really well, had like a lot of good formatting for that. And so I study it and then also entertain myself with it. And then last thing, I am really blown away by these Superman, Spider-Man covers. Like, these covers are ridiculous. Like, Jorge Jimenez, Gabriel Del some of the people that they picked are just like crazy. And they're doing these wild renditions of these characters that I'm just like, that shit blew my mind this week. I was like, bro, I love this. I love this for us. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think similarly the reaction and the positive feedback, but for me personally, it's seeing my kids light up when they look at it. Like, my little boy is wearing out my preview pre-production copy of Musa Lion and Mali. Like, he's flipping through it, he's asking questions. He's only 5. I tell him I got a podcast. He goes, "Oh, you're talking about Musa again?" Yeah, like, he's really hype about it. So that's doing it for me, because like, I'm seeing a bit. I've always seen a bit of my inner child reflected in him. It's bad enough he looks just like me at that age, but he acts just like me. He was sitting at dinner today. It's like, I made up a new superhero team called the Elementors, and there's torch fires. Like, I'm like, oh man, second coming all over again.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then today, Coast Contra just dropped a single on YouTube. And if you know the Coast, like, it's just, I've never been like a huge hip hop head. I've always been like that commercial guy who knows who the hardcore people are. But as I've gotten older, I developed a real appreciation for the craft, and like, Coast Contra they're just on it. And so whenever they drop something, I drop whatever I'm doing, and I let it play, I let it ride. And so they just dropped the single, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But on the nerdy front, I'm actually getting into Kagurabachi, the new manga that's out from Shonen Jump. Bunch of magic sword action in a modern setting. That's been a lot of fun. They play it kind of safe with the story, but the system they're building, as far as powers go and the visuals and all that, is very like John Woo meets like Rurouni Kenshin with magic swords. I love it.
Yeah. Dope. I think for myself, the first thing is my birthday was on Monday. So
Happy belated.
Appreciate you.
I'm belated, man.
Thank you. It's been a good week. It's been a good I had a good birthday. It's pretty low key, pretty chill, but I'm always very reflective, you know what I'm saying, around these times. I just turned 38, and so, really starting to not starting to, but like every birthday, you look at, well, what did I do this year? What I want to do, this next year coming up, all of those things. Appreciate you, Nova. So that's one thing. And I think similar to what Ade just said, my second, I have 4 sons. My second oldest son is getting into writing and getting into, like, he wrote these comic books, and he wrote and drew like this comic book story. And he did like 3 of them. And I didn't really say much to him because, I want you to, keep the love for it and do your thing. And then he started talking about, I want to sell them. And I said, okay, well, if we're going to sell them, we need to really talk about, the craft. You know what I'm saying? And I've been trying to find that line and that balance between, keep your passion and do your thing. But there are also these rules and guidelines and these things conventions that we follow, right? And so, that balance between being free and doing your thing, but also creating something that's cohesive and people understand, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I've been having conversations with him just about, I printed off some scripts off of, I got him for like Comics Experience or something like that. And he's been reading that, and, he's like ready to work. And I'm like, hey, it takes time. It takes time we got to go through this process, So it's just been inspiring to, teach him and have, I write comic books, I write novels, I write screenplays. And so to watch my son sort of fall in love with this thing that I love is it's a very, it's an interesting combination of emotions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that, then the last thing, this is very unserious, but I don't know if y'all play Grand Theft Auto at all, but they just dropped the Mansions DLC, and I just bought all 3 of the mansions. And so that's been cool. You know what I'm saying? That's been cool. But outside of that, everything's good. Everything's good. So now, if we can move on to our conversation now. I think the first question is, I would love to hear both of y'all's origin story, right? What got you into these creative fields? Where, your bio, like who is TJ and who is Ade? Either one of y'all can go first. It don't matter.
Shoot. I'm just trying to quickly log on to damn, I don't think this is gonna work. I was trying to log on to YouTube in order to chat with some of the folks who are making comments, but I'm just gonna answer you peripherally as I see them come in. But guys, it's a pleasure. Man, I originally met Ro through his Scarlet Ranger Kickstarter, and then eventually we ran into each other at a con. And I just loved the type of book that he was making. I loved his eye for picking artists. I loved his, stylistic storytelling and really just how he was crafting his own universe. So I really had a lot of respect and still do for Ro and what he's been building. And again, you could see that he came out the gate swinging with a really great book. So I just love seeing people put in the work that are humble, that are hungry and consistent with, building the thing that they want to build. So that was my introduction to Ro. Been around the block for a little bit of a minute. Again, my name's TJ Sterling, CEO and creative director at Ray Media. We specialize in, comic books, specifically graphic novels right now centered around Black and brown superheroes in various different genres like sci-fi, cyberpunk, space opera, sci-fi, martial arts, all kinds of different genres, and now historical fantasy with MUSA. We also have a manga that's out. So just been doing everything we can to make as many cool stories and enjoy ourselves as much as we can in the space of making comics. And you guys might have seen me at a con. I try to travel all over for different cons, so I'm always in different cities and different states. And right now we're here to talk about Musa Lion Amali, our brand new project, my collaborative project with my brother Ade Haru.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Ade Haru, Giant Killer Press. I almost pride myself in you not having heard of me before, because I've always been under the radar. I was doing small projects here or there, really just focused on the day job. But this conversation is about the odd day job. Just like TJ, I want to tell stories that haven't been told, and I want to make a big impact. For me, I love the superhero story, superhero genre, but I love all of it. So MUSA is like the first big project I put my name on, and it's because TJ, my brother, reached out and said, "Yo, I got the perfect project for us to really like put our heads together and bring something cool to life." And I was like, "All right, bet." And we were off from there. But for me, I've had this aversion to kind of putting myself out there and not putting out the best possible product. But it was thanks to TJ and I collaborating that I felt that we had a project that was big enough, grand enough, dynamic enough to bring to market and let people know that I'm finally serious about transitioning into putting my passion on the page.
Yeah. So that's actually one of my questions. What made, I would love for you to talk more about what made this project important for you to do right now.
Yeah, that's well, how do I put it? Like, for the folks that have been rocking with Ray Media since the beginning, we have typically focused on stories that are like in a fiction setting that aren't necessarily real and maybe not even be able to really happen. So we've done, the mechs, the cyborgs, the monsters, like all of these things that are fantastical. But we did want to kind of bring it down back to earth with this story about Mansa Musa. And, for me, I was always fascinated by Mansa Musa as a character, and as a person, because he really was a human being that walked the face of the earth at one point. And he changed a lot of people's lives. He changed economies. He like really influenced in a really really big way. So I was always fascinated by him as a character. And it was crazy that there was no stories about him out there in terms of like graphic fiction stories, or people would mention him in a song, or they'd mention him on a podcast, or maybe you could see him in a board game somewhere. But like a comic book or like a graphic media that showed this man's life and what he was doing didn't exist. So I really love creating things that don't exist. I mean, Shattered Visions, one of the books that we came out with a couple years ago, was the very first cyberpunk book with black folks in it. It had never been done before, which blew my mind because I loved cyberpunk. I love that genre. So just pride myself on trying my best to just make a story that doesn't exist. And I knew that because he was a larger than life character, because he was a grand character, I needed to connect with somebody who really understood the diaspora, understood the history and the vision and the importance of that. And a day was the first person that came to mind. I'm like, yo, this is my guy. I gotta talk with him. We gotta build on this. And it's very apropos right now because the banned books, all these things, they're basically trying to rewrite our history.
Yeah.
So us doubling down on that history and getting it out to the masses is more important than ever.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, honestly, for me, I had a new baby. Like TJ reached out. It was like a couple weeks after my first child was born, and I needed a distraction. Like it was a project I believed in. I'm Pan Africanist all the way through. But my wife was like, "Yeah, you should do this. Yeah, you're gonna be up anyway. You're gonna need something to focus and maintain your sanity." And I don't know if anyone listening has kids. You after your first one, your sanity goes out the door anyway. Like it's really just Arkham everywhere you go. Like it's kind of drop you off and you just break out. But this project has kept me grounded. And to TJ's point, like we're at a crucial point where we have to tell history for history's sake, because people are erasing things. I saw a book that said the Trail of Tears was voluntary. I saw a book that referred to slaves as indentured servants. I saw a book that said everything but the truth. And I've said this before in previous conversations. If we don't tell the story, they're going to co-opt the story, right? Like Michael Jackson, 500 years from now, they're just going to say he was just a white dude from Gary, Indiana. They're not going to, and especially with the name Michael Jackson, a Western name like that. That's what we're going to do. So we had to lock in and make sure that we planted that flag on the story of Mansa Musa, so that no one comes along and they try to pull the Hannibal Barca that they pulled recently. Well, oh no, it's just a European who was good with elephants.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's just so powerful. I had a conversation earlier this year, and I was telling them, as an African American, I was feeling, I'm actually getting a little emotional thinking about it, but I was thinking about all of the different people groups who have a connection to their mythologies, their lores. And I think one of the things for African Americans specifically, is I think there's such a disconnection from Africa, that we also lose a disconnection from the lore and the mythology and the grandness of who our people were. And so I think a project like this, it really spoke to me because it's something that I've been thinking about. You know, I got this book. I don't think I have it down here. It's called The Black Count. I had no idea that the Count of Monte Cristo was
Alexander Dumas.
Alexander Dumas. Now, if you watch Count of Monte Cristo with Christian Bale, it's just all Europeans, right? And so I just grew up thinking, oh, it's just it's a European story. This is connected to the Haitian Revolution. It's connected to all these different things, and it's Black people. And so it's just powerful seeing these representations of Mansa Musa, because it's not just a mythological figure, it's a historical figure, right? And so one of the questions that I had around that was, this being a historical fantasy, how did you decide where the history ends and your imagination sort of filled in some of those gaps?
Yeah, I want to quickly just say to your point that
do you think
people, most of the Black folks that live in America are from West Africa. Whether you get your ancestry DNA test done, or your test to find out where your genetic lineage, your ancestral lineage comes from, most of us are from West Africa. And Mansa Musa was a king that ruled over a vast territory in West Africa. So when we're telling this story, it's literally us telling a story about our ancestors, not Southern Africa, not East, not Egypt. Like, this was directly our people. And no shade to folks who want to make stories about Egypt, but it's a little disconnected because most of those people didn't come to America in some shape or form, So I think it is very much us trying to tap into the ancestors. And when we do that, when you look up Mansa Musa, there's a ton of information that's missing. There's a lot of lore, there's a lot of mythology, there's a lot of, hearsay, but then there's a lot of fact. And, we decided that when we were making this story, there were certain parts that we could kind of, take a little bit of creative liberty with, solely because, there were those gaps. And we wanted to say, hey, we could accentuate the story, and for us, like, you're not going to see a flying car or, an African mech. You're not going to see those things in this book. You're literally going to see, that maybe there's just a drop of magic. There's just a touch. There's just a taste. You know what I'm saying? Nothing too crazy. And if you guys want to check this incredible book out, this is what the page looks like. But all you got to do is go to MUSALionofMali.com, and it's going to take you right to it. We've got incredible books, T-shirts, all kinds of great stretch goals, like something for everybody on this project.
Absolutely. And to your point, Ro, like, history gave us the perfect jumping on and jumping off points for where to add that bit of flavor. Folks that pick up the book, they're going to see that there is mysticism. We don't go heavy with it. We don't even fully explain it in the first book, because this is, in 100 pages, we're already rebuilding Mali from the ground up, right? We're already taking what we know historically existed, but there's so much that's just not chronicled, so we're adding in there. We're also introducing the major conflict. We're introducing the major characters, and we're also trying to really establish the state of the continent in the 14th century in our version. It's important to note that this is not a graphic novel documentary. We didn't just look at a bunch of artifacts and articles and say, well, let's just do this. Like, let's just do the story of Mansa Musa. Like, no, we decided that someone as big as he is, as stunted the way that he stunted, would probably, if he tapped us on the shoulder and said, do my graphic novel, would probably want us to throw a little extra on it. So that's how we ended up, doing that. But you'll also notice, like, with the main antagonist, White Aminata, she has a mechanical prosthetic arm. Like, that's not canon. Like, that's not from whatever. But we decided that we're going to go big. We wanted to give ourselves room to grow. So even though in this story you're not seeing, again, African mechs and all of that, we wanted to tease people enough, like, what is the world like? What is the continent like? That's not to say that I'm promising African mechs, but there is more to that world. But we know that the central conflict is the major motivator for the first 100 pages of what we're hoping, or as we know, will be a 500-page epic saga. But this is the book when we're getting out of the gate. We want people to meet our version of Musa, YN Musa, as I like to call him. the young, brash, settle it with the sword version of him.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm glad you brought up that version, because that was going to be another one of my questions. What separates your version of Mansa Musa from the version that people think they know of who Mansa Musa was?
About 20 or so
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, I mean, so the Keita family, Keita, is the name of the ancestral family of Mali that stretches back like I think over 100 years of rulership and kings and warriors, so on and so forth. Mansa Musa was the most famous out of them, but he is typically seen in his elder years. Like when you hear a story about him, he's already established. He's already a king. He already has the money, and the territory's already grown. And he's essentially kind of just in the stunting phase. So our thing was like, we would love to see what a younger Musa looks like as he's coming into power, as he's discovering his own personal ability to be able to rule and to do some incredible things. And that gives us, in our opinion, a lot of opportunity to grow the story organically based on history with, again, a drop of fantasy, and really just spread our wings and have a good time, creating a really beautiful yarn for everyone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Were you gonna say something, Hade?
No, I was just agreeing. I was co-signing, and that's
Okay,
what it
yeah,
was. Like, yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So, one of the things, and this is one of the things that I know about TJ and TJ's books, the art is going to be immaculate, right? And so when you look at some of these pages, like the covers, the artwork, like it's crisp, right? And so one of my questions was about, I guess the style and the aesthetic, right? What was your North Star as you were, crafting the visual palette of this story?
Yeah. When Day and I were originally talking about this book, we felt that Mansa Musa was, a legendary, mythical person to have walked Earth, and it wasn't something that we could just silo to one artist. Like we wanted to kind of give it an anthology feel. So we wanted to incorporate as many black and brown comic creators within the space of mainstream comics as well as indie comics. So
Yeah,
um, our chapter one is by Stanley Obende, who's a gentleman out of Africa who looks out his window and literally sees what he puts right in the book. You know what I'm saying? So like, and then we have Wellington Nomo on chapter two, who's a black man from the Dominican Republic. We've got Ray Anthony Height. We have Sean Damian Hill out of DC, who has done a ton of stuff for Marvel and a bunch of other big companies. So we've got some incredible people on the team that we kind of just let them have some fun, and luckily for us, we had put the homework in. We did the time to really make sure that we had everything built before they came to the project. That means the script
Yeah.
was tight, and we already had a glossary of uh, reference material, meaning we did a ton of world building behind the scenes. We had, models, we had character designs, we had environmental designs, ships. Like we had basically everything an artist needed to just do their job, where they didn't have to ask for anything. They could just go to town and play.
right.
And we felt like that was really, really well accomplished with the team on this book.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we like to stress to folks, so we have these conversations about this project. Again, musalionandmolly.com, where people are talking, they're asking like, yo, this would be dope as an anime. Like, yo, who would you put in the movie? When we sat down, we knew we were going to do this as a graphic novel. That's the medium we both love. It's a space we operate in. But we approach world building as though this could be any and everything. Like we didn't constrict ourselves to like what we thought might look good on the page. We wanted to have a living, breathing, magical rendition of Mali that would take on a life of its own. And then folks that could come along, to CJ's point, come along, play in the sandbox and build. So when they got the script, they would get the previous pages and they would get, the background work, and they would get, references that we sent, and they would get the world building, concept art and all that. And we just set them loose because the idea was that we were going for that blockbuster feel. And I think we definitely nailed that. I don't think there's a single person who's actually looked at the book who hasn't felt like it was bigger than the pages they were holding. And I think that's a feather in our hat for this particular project. And to TJ's point, that's nothing but the ancestors tapping us on the shoulder and just saying, go big or go home.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, I think, with 243 backers, over $14,000. I mean, I think that's just a testament to, people seeing the work and seeing the style and saying, hey, this is worth, supporting. And so if you're watching this right now, you could definitely, did I write the link down at the bottom in that banner, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
MUSALineofMolly.com. Yes, sir.
You can go to that link. There's a Kickstarter link also in the description of this video. If looking at it on YouTube, definitely support what these men are doing, the work that they're putting out, because I think it's going to be very impactful for the community. And like we touched on earlier, like the history and the mythology and the just seeing our people in this way, in this light, I think is very, very powerful, very impactful. I'm inspired by it. One question I did have too, you mentioned the collaborative process. What was it like for you two to collaborate? What was that process like for you? How, what was the, how did that feel for you all?
I thought it was great. It was great getting a chance to connect with TJ. He and I met at Baltimore Comic-Con like 2017. He was there, pushing Okemos, a great series that if you've not checked it out, you should. And we just kept in touch. But he and I, we were talking passing, we would chat about various projects, but we weren't really homeboys yet. We knew enough about each other to know that this would be a great collaboration. But over the course of like putting the world together, like we would have like a standing meeting every Tuesday for like an hour that would always go over. We'd be spending hours on the line just going over like our research and world building, and that would be dope. No, that would be dope. Or hey, you remember that? And like talking about our inspirations and how we had plenty of conversations about like the people who inspired us. And then at the end of it, we had decided that that first book wasn't going to be enough. We knew we wanted to do 100 pages, but we had way more than 100 pages worth of story. And that's when the decision was made to just go for let's go for 500. Let's be ambitious. Let's really go big or go home. So this first book, again, Kickstarting pledge at MUSALineofMolly.com, is book one of a planned 5. So that's 500 pages that we're looking at. And we want to go through the life cycle. But it was just great to sit down and just have those long conversations where we talked through it and we waited for it to feel organic. Like neither one of us pushed an idea and just like to push an idea. Well, so-and-so should be this, or what if we did that? We let the story tell itself. We looked at the history. We saw our opportunities to embellish and to build, and then we just let it all fall into place. And then, like TJ said, we just created this material that anyone can reach into and pull a great story out of. And we were blessed that our art team delivered on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was actually very seamless working with Day and building on this. But again, that's I didn't. How do I put it? When I make comic books, I don't think about ones and twos and the numbers and what's profitable. And I mean, when I go to a con, I don't even think about making table back. Like those types of things are far from my mind. I've really dialed into the experience of the creation, because to me that's where the fun is. And spiritually connected, when it comes to creativity, you feel things out. And I always had a feeling like working with Day on something was going to be the way to it was going to be the way to work with Day.
Right.
It was going to be the way to build with somebody dope and have a good time. And I think it was more every time you have a new creative team, you have to adjust a little bit. So like we'd have one artist in a different chapter, and we'd have little things we'd have to adjust when we get to chapter 2 because of working with a different artist. So I think that was probably the biggest challenge for us. But other than that, me and him, we had a great time on this. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So going back to MUSA and the history, what were there any in your research? Were there any details, or was there any things that you came across that surprised you about not just the history of Mansa Musa, but that surprised you in a way that made you say, we got to have this in the book? Like, are there any things that you came across like that made you say, we got to do this?
I would say it's probably for me, it's the family dynamics. So, like TJ said, Mansa Musa is the most famous person from the Keita clan. He's the most famous, especially in the West. We talk about him, but back on the continent, they talk about his grandfather Sundiata, the patriarch, the cripple who became king, the one who built Mali, the one who actually built the fortune that Musa got to really stunt on and build on. And so we don't even really mess with that, because again, in 100 pages, you only get so much real estate. The king and the king Abu Bakari, his uncle, at least we portray him as the uncle in the book, and his older brother Suleiman, there was so much to tap into there, because when you're building this version of Musa, we're reverse engineering someone based on all this mythology and folklore and these larger than life tales. So we ended up with our version of Musa, and then we got to build his family around that. And the research we did, and they showed like his legacy, they showed the people who influenced him, they showed the people who succeed him on the throne, and one of those is his brother. And so we got to really sit down and build this Suleiman Keita, who fits into the story, this opposite of Musa in so many ways, where Musa is, headstrong, he's a lot more calculating. Musa's more physical, he's a lot more logical, and the type of guy who would be a challenge to Musa if they weren't already so tight as brothers. And so it was really great to build that, to get that opportunity, because when we sat down, at least in my mind, I was like, we're telling Musa's story. And then it became the story of Mali, and then it really became the story of the Keitas and their impact on Mali. And so I wasn't prepared for that. I was ready for a sword and sorcery take on Mansa Musa. I wasn't ready, at least at the onset, to build the story that we ended up building with all the nuance and all these Easter eggs and the connective tissue.
TJ?
Yeah, pretty much the same. There's so many cool things about the Keita Empire, the Keita family. I mean, there really are some magnificent people, and that's why, over 500 years later, people are still talking about them. I mean, I think that's kind of crazy when you think about it. If your legacy can last more than if your legacy can last 50 years, you thank that, pray to your lucky stars, because it's a blessing. I mean, you think about the creations that we make. Everybody's kind of chasing this kind of idea of not being Stanley, but having a Stanley type of impact, where the characters you make and put out there have a life of their own that will far exceed your own life. And I think with what the Keitas did, they did just that with their impact socially, economically, mythologically. They have a very crazy impact. So there's so much story to tell. And I think one of my favorite pieces was the fact that they were a sailing empire. They would send out thousands of ships across the ocean, across the globe, to literally just go study and to go learn and bring back knowledge. It wasn't to go to a place that was already discovered and then claim it and rape and kill a bunch of people. We weren't on that tip. That was clearly we all know who that is, but they were all about knowledge, and they went to America first. They went to a lot of places first and brought back the knowledge. And I do think that it's not celebrated enough, the facts. And again, as we get for deeper and deeper into the 2020s, facts are becoming more and more fuzzy, because you got deep fakes and you got fake news and you have, AI doing the craziest shit. So it's like you need factual information now more than you've ever needed it. And I don't know, when I was a kid, I'd see movies about people fighting about the purity of information, and I always thought it was a joke. I was like, hey, it's in a book, or it's there. I mean, who cares? I mean, like, the truth is always going to be there, but like, who knows what it's going to look like in 10 years, who's dominating the truth or dominating the narrative. And propaganda is a real thing. People are on it, and they're leveraging social media to create propaganda to sway you on how you think. And that's goes from what's happening across the world in Gaza, what I'm saying? It goes all the way to what's happening in Hollywood, and even what's happening in relationships between men and women. You have people placed in spots that are trying to confuse you and bewilder you and create a sense of, you know, a lack of intelligence. It's trying to dull your blade instead of
Mhm.
sharpen it. So I do think staying woke that saying continues to grow more powerful every time I hear it. I'm like, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You mentioned earlier that I think you said people ask like, are you going to make this an anime? You're going to make this what medium you going to do this in? And you said you really created it to be a graphic novel. What has, and this is more of a broader question, not just for Musa, but all of your work, what draws you to the medium of comic books and graphic novels?
Yo, to me, like I heard an artist talking about this and I never forgot it. And it was some real shit that like comics are one of the only mediums on earth that requires you to be able to draw in everything. This was a penciler that was talking about this. And if you rewind a tape, before there was photography, before there were cameras, people were, painting portraits and drawing portraits and drawing likenesses, and the sequential narrative was a lot of how people documented their history. It was on cave paintings, it was on, wall murals, it was on scrolls, it was on tablets. I mean, this was how people, literally, it was a pictorial form of history, and those things exist to this day in comics. It's literally just the most modern version of that, because you could take pictures and tell an entire comic book through pictures, or do something photorealistic, but there's something about the craft, an artisan who has trained his skills in writing and drawing and coloring and lettering, that is not something the average person can do. You have to have very, very disciplined skill set. And like I said, comics is just such an important medium, because to me, it's always been the gateway drug to like bigger things. If you
Mhm.
want to be, a music video director, you have to understand sequential storytelling and lighting and color theory and all kinds of stuff that literally you learn when you make comic books. If you want to be a storyboard artist for film, usually most of those people are comic book creators. Shout out to Brian K. Turner and Shauna Mills, like, and, Jerry Gaylord. These are people who started out as comic book creators that now work in Hollywood doing stuff for, films, animations, TV. It all starts with comics. It's literally like the perfect gateway drug for young kids to learn, something that will spark the brain if they want to become, a video game designer. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and it's crazy because like most of the hip hop heads that we loved growing up were comic book fans. Like
Mhm.
pretty much all of them. I mean, what is it? Nas, Raekwon, Ghostface, DJ Premier. They just dropped a book with Marvel. Legend Has It, which is incredible, by the way. And they were all comic book fans, like all of them, which is crazy to me. But again, they're all storytellers, so I think it actually makes perfect sense. That medium is just it's a powerful medium, and I don't think people take it seriously enough sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What he said, I got nothing to add to that. That's the gospel on it. That's why you
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's true. I think, for me, I write in a bunch of different mediums. So I write poetry, I write screenplays, I write novels, I write comic books. And for me, I don't know, I can't put into words what makes each one of those mediums special, but it's something about each one of those mediums
Mhm.
that is different than all the other mediums. And in the way in which you receive the information, it's almost like a spiritual thing, right? It's like the way you receive the information affects what you receive from the information. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Um, and so I think I started out writing comic books because it felt more accessible than, I felt like I could write 20 to 24 pages before I could write a 300-page novel or
Mhm.
break into the movie business, right? But you quickly find out that those 24 pages there's still work involved in creating those 24 pages, right? Like the medium, to me, it doesn't get easier. It just changes a little bit. You know what I mean? Um, so anyway, I just put my little 2 cents in there. The next question I have for y'all was, so as a creator and a creative, y'all been doing this, for a long time. Y'all OGs in the game. What are some of the lessons that you've learned over your time of creating and being a creator that have stuck with you? Maybe it's one lesson or maybe it's multiple ones, but what are some of those things that you carry with you from project to project?
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I want to hear. I mean, I could talk about this for days, but I would love to hear a day's opinion on this. Then I'll
Yeah.
chime in.
Yeah, no problem. But for me, the first thing is honestly treat it like the craft. Like you were saying earlier, how you were going to teach your second oldest how to approach it, and that reminded me of a talk I gave at my day job actually, because I had a bunch of writers, a bunch of instructional designers and trainers who were getting really butthurt about the criticism of their work, and I had to explain to them that when you're doing it for pay, you're doing it, for the consumer. It's equal parts art and craft. Like you have to be able to pull yourself into it. You have to be able to see yourself in it. You have to have that fire to pull you. But the craft part is there are rules to this shit. Like art is like, oh, you just take a crap and smear it on the wall and call it art. But if you're trying to do, Picasso in feces, then you're gonna have to, study him a little bit, right? And so uh one thing I carry from project to project is remembering that I'm not the best to ever do it. That the best to ever do it probably hasn't shown up yet, and that it's my job to continue to learn as I go and to keep pushing, to keep pushing. And the other thing is that while you do have a favorite genre, um, the number one thing to keep in mind, especially as a writer, as a creative in that space, is that genre doesn't mean shit compared to the actual art of writing and storytelling. You can say, "Oh, I love superheroes. I love Incredible Hulk. I love Invincible Iron Man," and then only want to tell "quote unquote" superhero stories, right? But then you're neglecting the fact that those stories you love are based in something else, built in something else. If you're a Hulk lover, a Hulk head, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is what fueled that fire for Stan Lee. And people tend to forget that, you can get really comfortable in that niche within that genre and ignore the rest of all the beautiful content that feeds that evolution. Like I'm really big into manga right now, reading a lot of it, because you can tell, especially within the really commercial stuff, like generation after generation, who influenced who and who's building on what. And you can look at the stuff coming out now. You can still see like the new stuff in Shonen Jump. I mentioned Kagurabachi. You can see the big three before them in there, and you can see the big three before them before there. You can look at Kagurabachi. You can see Toriyama. You can see Akutami. You can see Kubo. You can see all that. And as a creative, the idea is that you're not going to keep aping everyone, but you are going to be paying homage and paying it forward. Because the flip side of that is that once you enter this space and say, I'm a creative, I make the shit I like, I make the shit you like, hopefully, then you're part of the narrative, you're part of the story, just like we're trying to be with MUSA and Amali. We're not owning the story, we're owning this version that gets you talking about the conversation. And when you're creative, your job is it's a give as well as you get within this space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, I mean, I'd like to say every year there's learnings, but in comics, when you're really in these streets, like every day posting, you're at cons every month, you're running Kickstarter campaigns, and you're really, in the trenches. The learnings are like rapid fire, that you just get them so quickly. And I think too, you get into like a stream of not only creative conscious, but you get into a stream of just like, like, well, I would say you start to hit a stride, you hit a rhythm. And that's what I feel like, it even takes me a little while after I've been out of the con season for like a couple of months to kind of get back into my rhythm, to remember some of the stuff that we did and how some of the process on this stuff works. Because again, it's all cyclical. And I think patience for me is the biggest takeaway, because when you are dealing with, grown folks that have, lives and kids and jobs and other hustles that they're doing, and things happen. I had an artist, who was working on a book for me. He got COVID, real bad, and couldn't do anything for a while, and it was scary because he was an older guy. So they were like, this is when COVID was killing people. You know what I'm saying? And so you like, who knows how this is going to work? So doing everything we can to support him and then I mean, I had one artist, he was inking a book for me back in the day, and he went to a rock concert, somebody fell on him, and then literally snapped his neck, and
Oh no.
he had to have his neck repaired with like some bolts and wires and shit. So like, weird things happen. It's just not to laugh at that, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, you wouldn't expect something, so crazy to happen, but really crazy stuff does happen because it's life, and everybody's got quirks, everybody's got things, and it's just a matter of like learning that to have that patience, have that consistency, and I think for me though, you know, just being in the moment, enjoying myself, enjoying the people that I experience. Because when we make comic books, yes, we have a great idea that we want to get out, and the manifestation of the idea is incredibly important, but it's even more important to see the idea, you know, come to life, and it serve a purpose in someone's everyday, someone's life, someone literally just like, oh hey, this is something I love, I can't get enough of this book, I want more of it, I want to see you again. And when you get to see regulars, people who you've known for a long time, pull up at a con, and it really does feel like a family of sorts. So yeah, just like I said, man, consistency, the patience is a big thing. And I gotta say, like, I don't have an interest, never have. This is just me. I can't speak for anybody else, but like, never had an interest in competing
Mm,
with, my fellow Black creators. It's not something I have zero interest in that. And I don't even consider it to be a competition. We're all in different lanes. We all make different books. And sometimes our, fans and supporters kind of cross paths and they like similar stuff, but sometimes they like completely different stuff. And wish everybody luck. But I just like to get in my lane and work hard and do my thing, and make it happen. Like, all the other peripheral shit don't even matter. It's literally just about, you have an idea that you believe in, you have something you want to do, and just getting it done. That's all that matters. All the other shit is just like minutia and just fluff. Like, it's smoke and fumes. It literally means nothing. So that's why I said, like, comics is literally a business of creativity. And I just want to be in the moment. I want to keep creating. I want to keep loving what I do. And when I put out a project, I want to be proud of it. I want to stand next to it proudly, and confidently, like, this is something that you're going to enjoy, it's gonna move the needle for you in some way, shape, or form. And
yeah.
just the last story I'll tell before we move on is that I had a supporter of mine who I'd never met before, but he backed one of my Kickstarters back in the day, and had been buying my books ever since. Buy them online, do this, do that, whatever. And he had hit me via Facebook Messenger one day, and he said, yeah man, I just wanted to thank you because your book saved my life. And I didn't really
Mm,
understand what that meant. I was like, can you elaborate a little bit? And he's like, well, I'm a paranoid schizophrenic, and my mood goes from being very, very normal and cool to being absolutely insane. And sometimes I'm in the hospital for weeks or months at a time trying to get my mind right. And being able to read comics that are, fun, entertaining, exciting, and that I get to see myself in, literally gives me the hope and the excitement to keep going and keep doing stuff. It sparks the inspiration. So it was a blessing to get that message. It made me feel like, hey, I'm doing the right thing. I'm going in the right direction, and I have to keep going no matter how tough it is, because making comics is tough. The shit ain't cheap. You know what I'm saying? It's not easy.
if you
And,
answer that cheap.
yeah, it's like pushing a boulder up a hill. But once you get to the top of that hill and you watch that thing go down, it's like, yup, it's worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, did you want to add something, Ade? No, you went first. You
Oh
went
yeah,
first.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Peace.
So yeah, let's go back to the campaign. Again, this is Musa, Lion of Mali. It's on Kickstarter right now. Definitely the link is scrolling down at the bottom. It's also in the description of the video. So
Mhm.
definitely support. I would love for y'all to talk a little bit about the campaign, the rewards. What the I think you mentioned a little bit earlier, but like, what is the campaign offering? What are you looking forward to getting to people? Like, what is? Yeah, just talk about the campaign a little bit.
Yeah, so we're offering the 120-page book. I know I mentioned 100 pages before. That's 100 pages of story and about 20 pages of back matter. So when we talked about that world building and being very intentional about wardrobe, about setting, about environments, about architecture and ships, that's being included. Yeah, you can see some of that right there. And you'll also notice that you see two versions of the Keita brothers, because we know that we're starting with young Musa, but we know that we're going to be building the narrative. We're going to be exploring older Musa, so we went ahead and pulled the trigger on that as well. We have a standard cover. We also have a Kickstarter exclusive wraparound cover that folks can get a handle on and get for the campaign. Trust me, you're not going to be getting it anywhere else after this. That's the whole point of being Kickstarter exclusive. So if you see it, it's by the one and only Karen Grant. If you see it, you want it, I suggest you lock it in. We don't even have an infinite number of those, do we, TJ? Like, that's a set number. So once we hit that number, that's it. That's just what it is. My wife, when we opened up the Kickstarter, make sure to get her copy locked in, just so you know. Yeah, so we're doing that. TJ mentioned the T-shirts. We also recently opened up for international shipping, so we know that this was a project we said was our love letter to the diaspora, and both TJ and I were both hit up by folks who wanted to know how they could get it. And they were like, well, I had a friend in the States, they can get it, send it to me, but I'd love to get it from you. So we did open up that tier for folks. We also heard a lot about hardcovers and people just wondering like if they could do that. So at our 15K stretch goal, which we're coming up on, thank you everyone for your support. We have a huge bundle of Black indie titles, number ones that we're going to be sharing with you all to really, continue the love and the support that we're feeling. People who believe in the project, a lot of which have backed the project themselves. We want to make sure that you know who they are if you don't already. But we look at some of the titles on offer. I guarantee you know most of them. But for me personally, if I just jump ahead and put the cart before the horse, the 20K is what I'm really hype about. That's that hardcover. Once we get to that, if you back the physical version, wraparound or otherwise, we're looking to give you a physical copy, a physical hardcover of the book, something that lasts a little longer, something you can thumb through, something you can put on your coffee table, get really hype about, show off to folks. I think for a project this big, we want to put our money where our mouth is.
Sure.
And we also want to make sure that we leverage, the support and the love that we're getting for this project to give people something memorable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, guys. Nova Sparks Books, what up, man? Thank you so much for the comment. Yeah, the artwork is phenomenal. Please back the campaign, fam. Like, you can do it right now through the link. Your good thing about this is that with pledging, you do not get charged immediately. You get charged when the campaign closes in 17 days, which is December 28th. So, it's after Christmas. You can do all the stuff you need to do. But yeah, we want to get this book in your hands. It's 120 pages, beautifully crafted stuff. And the good thing about this book is that we literally have it done, with the exception of a handful of tweaks, some small tweaks towards the end to make it perfect. You guys aren't not gonna have to wait long for this book. You're literally going to get a copy within 30 to 60 days, if not sooner. Because as soon as the Kickstarter ends, we're going to be printing and shipping these books. So
Yep.
we're excited to get it to you like quick, like real quick. Like, we're very, very excited to get this book in your hands, and not make you wait for it. I'm a fan first. I've been buying comics since 1988, and I'm a huge fan. I like being able to get my content in a timely manner. I've supported almost 200 Kickstarters, thus far, and I can't tell you one that I've gotten something quickly on them. They always make you wait, and we tried to basically remedy that with this particular book. We wanted to just make sure we came to you and we stepped to you correct and had a project that was done, because again, we're investing in you because you're investing in us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just like Musa, we want to put our money where our mouth is. So we didn't even bring this project to you all until it was done and dusted. Every page accounted for, every letter in place, so that you know that we're serious about it. We didn't want to come to you hat in hand and say, believe in our dream, help us get there. And we didn't craft this project, even though we put all that care into world building. We never sat down and thought, Netflix is going to love this shit. We never sat down and go, oh man, do you think we're gonna put on PlayStation or Steam? Like, no, we wanted to have a story that had legs of its own, that people would read and love, and then they would pester the hell out of us waiting for book 2. And wanting to know if White Aminata or Suleiman get their own series, wanting to know why we didn't put this character in there or didn't reference this thing that they know for a fact is in the story. We wanted this to be a conversation. We wanted it to be something tangible that we could begin that conversation as early as possible with.
That sounds incredible. Family, y'all definitely go and support and back what these brothers have going on. They're doing great work. I'm like I said, I'm inspired by it. I think it looks great. The art looks amazing. I know the story is going to be dope.
Appreciate you
So
backing it earlier, by the way, Ro.
Absolutely.
yeah, for sure. Let me see what Nova said. I don't think everybody campaign. Yeah.
Nova, if you backed it, like, if this is your first Kickstarter campaign, just to kind of give you an idea, most of the time when people come to Kickstarter, it's to, again, gain funding to make the thing, to make the dream happen, the idea come to fruition. But in our case, because we've been in the streets already doing this, and we understand that a lot of people wait on Kickstarter, and they wait long and long and long, hours, days, years to get projects. We didn't want to do that to you. We wanted to come correct and be able to deliver a product, again, within 30 to 60 days with no issue, with no problem at all. So you get this book, you back it today, you're going to get it, in that first, that within that first month, typically probably January, you'll be able to get this book in your hands. And we're very, very confident about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like TJ said, we're fans first. And I don't want to toot my own horn. I'm a fan of this book. Like I couldn't wait to like I couldn't wait for it to be done. Like we began this project 5 years ago, and we put a lot of energy, a lot of love into it. We did our best to work around life getting in the way, and we really just wanted to make sure that we had something to show for it, and it was the best that it could possibly be. And I can say unequivocally, that is what this is, this project. And I've said it before, if I don't print anything else, if I don't publish anything else, this book is it for me. Like, this is already, it's not the best I'll ever be, because we all grow and evolve, but this is a very strong showing, a very amazing book. The craftsmanship alone, like, I'm a fan of every person involved with this project, from TJ through the art team, through the letterer, Duron Grant, like not Duron Grant, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name.
Darren Bennett.
Sorry, Darren. That's Grant. Like, I'm a fan of every person involved, and this project was a great way to see how they work, how they process information, how they handle a script. And to a person, every one of them saw some version of the vision that culminated in this book. So it was beautiful to be a part of the project. And if you haven't backed it, I suggest you strongly consider it. It's going to be one that everyone's talking about in 2026.
Absolutely. Well, y'all have the link. Y'all go and back it. Y'all go support what they got going on. Brothers, I appreciate y'all kicking it with me tonight. Ade, I appreciate you, man. I always end the show with a little words of affirmation. Ade, I appreciate you. I appreciate your energy. It's my first time meeting you, and I can just feel through the screen just the wisdom and the grace. And I'm glad I got to meet you. Glad I got to talk with you. TJ, I appreciate you, brother. TJ has been, he's an OG in the game. And I'll never forget when I first did Scarlet Ranger, you called me and you gave me some real encouraging, words, and you've been supporting me, man. So I appreciate you. I appreciate what you do for the community. And I just appreciate what both of you guys are adding to the conversation with this graphic novel and the passion that you have for our history and our mythology and our lore and our people. So thank y'all so much for what y'all are doing. And to the audience, thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you for watching. If you want to support the show, you can join my Substack, and you can see some of my writing. And, like I said, I write comic books, short stories, all kinds of things. It's all on the Substack. You can check it out. Again, don't forget to check out MUSA, The Lion of Mali. It's on Kickstarter right now. So make sure you back and support. You said the last day is the 28th?
Yeah.
Yep. 28th.
Yep. That's coming up faster than you think it will. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. And with that, we're going to get out of here. As always, I love y'all. Peace.
Peace, y'all.
Have a great one, family. See you soon.